everyone, and welcome back to Zabira Buzzed Me, your go-to podcast where we buzz you through all things tech, finance, and digital assets. I am the media playboy, and I will be your host today. Today's topic is something really interesting, and I'm super excited, and that is 9-to-5ers, creators, and investors. Who's your zaddy? Who really pays those bills? I have two amazing guests with me. I have Ike by my side, who's going to be the 9-to-5er.
Glad to be here.
And I also have Jide, who is going to be our investor.
Thank you for having me again.
And of course, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, playing the creator. So let's get started. Okay, so tell us, really, Ike, why did you choose your zaddy, 9-to-5?
I would say I didn't choose my zaddy chose me. Pretty much, we live in an environment or in a country where having a 9-to-5 speaks volumes for you, both in your domestic space as well as in various social circles, professionally, and all that. So I think I was chosen by this zaddy, so to speak, right? After graduating from university, got my first job, my first gig, that kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities, the endless possibilities of working in professional space. And I was privileged to start up my career in a tech environment. So that kind of really drove it forward for me, drove it home for me. And I charted a course from there, and here we are today.
Interesting. And Jide, why did you choose to be an investor?
I'll take some notes from what he said. As currently as it is and everything, the world has moved to digital age, and it makes it easier to actually invest in several opportunities, both locally and internationally. And in that light, after you graduated from university, searching for jobs, well, we know how the country is. It's actually hard to get jobs.
Very important.
Exactly. So I delved into varieties of things here and there, various endeavors. So shaky. But I think several opportunities, international ones, actually came to be. You see the likes of Forex and also other things like that. And from there, I actually started investing. With the little funds I got quality returns. And then you also start putting it into different businesses to try and get your returns back. And slowly and steadily. Now I have several things under my name, and it's actually going good.
Several things under your name. Okay. And as for me, I chose to be a creator because first off, take a look at me now. Am I not fine?
Yes, you are.
And number two is, people always say, use your voice, like use it and do something good. And then I had passion for specific things. So I decided that, okay, why don't I put this to good use? Set a camera, have your lights, and then you can educate people. Creators don't just dance on camera or sing on camera. You can literally put your skills to work on camera and educate people, inspire people, and as well train people on specific areas that they need help with. Yeah, so I think that's basically it. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to ask, what's the best thing about being a 9-to-5er? What's the pros about being a 9-to-5er?
Okay, I think before I go into it, I noticed Jide kind of had to spotlight a couple of things. He has a lot of things under his name and stuff. Not to be competitive here, but as for being a 9-to-5er, I would say, especially in this African environment or in the Nigerian environment specifically, the perks are phenomenal, right? So, as a professional or as a 9-to-5er, right? First things first. The most important thing or the biggest perk is network, right?
Okay.
We know this statement or this popular ideology that who you know or who you sabi, that comes to play a lot in the professional space or in the 9-to-5 space, right? It's always about who you know. If you have a very solid network, right? If you have a very solid link with different people from different works or different spaces, you'll be able to get ahead faster than anyone else. You'll also be able to get a lot of things done. That's just one perk, the network. And then when it comes to the payout in terms of the 9-to-5, one thing that stands out for me is stability, right? We live in a very uncertain or unstable economic climate, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of government policies, as well as unrestricted business activities can affect your level of income at any point in time, right? Situations, unforeseen circumstances can come up, but then for the 9 to 5, we have a stable salary, we have a stable income, right? I can be able to plan my whole month or whole life around my earning, my income, right? And as well as I can project as to what level of income I should have at any point in time, right? And that for me is a major takeaway, because take for example, right? I don't have to outrightly own some certain things, right? But I can actually fund or finance those things based on the fact that I have a salary waiting for me every month, right? And also, most institutions that would give some credit facilities and all would readily and easily give those credit facilities to a 9 to 5er, rather than to someone else who your income cannot be validated in the long run, right? So that's the second perk. Then the last perk for me, which tops it up, right, is the bragging rights that come with being a professional. So I don't know about other professionals, but I'm in the tech space, I'm in the fintech space, and I know that when I'm at social gatherings, when I'm invited to things like this, right, there's a certain level of respect, there's a certain level of value that is accorded to me, right? Being a professional, no one can really really label you or label your financial worth, right? But especially if you are on the upper echelons of your professional space, so basically maybe you're in management, you're an executive, right? Your worth is pretty much estimated at a very huge value, right? Compared to, you may be in an industry that's, the level of revenue generated there is not really great, but because of your positioning on the corporate ladder, right, you'll be accorded the respect that is equal to someone in another industry that has a heavier cash flow, right? Okay. So it's easy to blur those lines, right, as you climb the corporate ladder. So those are the perks for me.
Okay. And today, why did you choose to be an investor instead of a 9 to 5 or creator?
I've tasted actually the 9 to 5 life, but one key thing that actually pulled my interest and made me stick with being an investor rather is the fact that there's freedom. Now, we might also put this into consideration that, okay, everyone says starting a business or starting something is not easy.
Yeah.
Compared to 9 to 5 life, it's 24/7 for you. But there's a freedom of choice in what you want to do. As a 9 to 5er, there's also that limitation of you have to be at the office.
Yeah.
But being an investor, you still have the reasons and the way to actually chill. And that is one key thing I appreciate of being an investor. Okay. I have my time. You understand? Another thing that actually struck with me was leverage. You understand? Where I can leverage the current opportunities I have to double or triple my profits. I'm not seeking the little monthly rewards I get, but leverage on the little funds I have to get existential funds for myself. And that's one key thing that I'm actually enjoyed during my course as an investor, because there's so much opportunities out there. And then when you put in little at the right time, at the right moments, with the investor experience that you've had, you would actually get quality returns. As an investor also, there is the building of your reputation. You understand? When you have several things on under your portfolio, you've gotten to a certain stage in life where you actually start experiencing things in a different point of view. Yeah. Because your reputation moves before you get there. You understand? You want to get something, you want to start a new business, you want to start a new line of chain of stores. You actually have people that will actually, just on the basis of your name, they would actually be willing to invest in you compared to other fields. Okay. And that's one key thing that I've actually experienced and I've enjoyed being an investor. Okay. You understand? Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2 valid points. Well,
I still have something I would like to argue about that.
Okay. Why I chose to be a creator and the pros of being a creator. So your 2 points are great, but you see, I've been on the side of job hunting and I've been on the side of trying to make wise investment or smart investment options. And eventually, either you start crying, like, the kind of cry that you cannot get back the money. Well, for a creator, I feel like you're your own boss. You determine what you want to do, you determine what you want to say, you determine when you want to shoot your videos, when you want to publish it. Like literally every decision is you. You're building your own brand. So you're working for yourself, you're putting in all the energy, you're not stressed out. And for me, I also see creation as an investment as well, because initially, it's not going to be paying, but eventually, by the time you start doing a whole lot, people are seeing your face out there and the kind of things that you do, you can start getting like brand deals, and then they start paying you well, and you be a baller. Like, guy, seeing all the creators out there that are making a lot of money. So for me, it's the sweetest part about being in the professional space, where you just decide that you have a brand and you want to grow your brand and you're working for yourself. So now let's come to the cons, because I had a lot to say while Ike, you were talking. I just said, let me hold myself because I was angry. The cons of being a 9 to 5, and let me air my views very well. First of all, like I saw you mentioned something.
I feel like I'm going to be attacked right now.
You're not going to be attacked. But, when you say something about networking and in the country, it has to be who you know. I remember that like a few days ago, I was on LinkedIn and somebody said, I applied for a job in NNPC. NNPC is the big oil and gas company. Everybody's trying to get a job in those kind of places. And then he's like, they declined or they rejected his application because of certain reasons. And, you wrote this long article talking about how in Nigeria, you have to have connection before you get specific kind of jobs and get good pays. And I remember when I was job hunting, I would see some jobs on LinkedIn. Like content creator job, for example. You've told me you want a content creator, fine. You want me to be a copywriter. You want me to be a social media marketer. You want me to be a social media manager. You want me to be a web manager. You want me to create, like you want to just bombard me with all the work. And when I scroll down to, let me at least see the salary. Can Fugodi, what they have written down there, I'll come and see 100,000 a salary per month. And I'm coming to work every day. I can't deal with that part of those two sides, the who you know before you get a good job, and then pay somebody little for 5 people's job. That is the worst part about 9-to-5ers. So for me, I don't know how you deal with that.
Okay, so let me clarify something for you, right? Let me clarify something. When I said it's about who you know and networking, right? I wasn't talking about the unscrupulous attitude or acts, right? That some certain individuals will do, where they will bring in family members and people they know for their own personal gain and stuff, right? What I was talking about is professional networking, right? And by that I mean interacting in a professional space based off of the value that you can add to like a certain position or profession, right? The value you're bringing, and someone else recognizing that value, right? And recommending you based off of that value. Do you understand? So say, for example, I have skills in digital marketing, for example, right? And I'm in a place where there is a need for a digital marketer with experience and someone who has probably worked with me on a project or in a previous company makes a recommendation. I know someone who's really good at this, right? And makes a recommendation. And then the person or the organization he makes a recommendation of me to reaches out to me. And then, we go through the process of interviewing and all that. And the character can actually validate that I have the necessary skills and I bring the value that they're looking for, right? That already opens doors for me. That's what I'm talking about, professional networking.
Okay.
Then as for the part where you mentioned the salary not being commensurate, right? So here's what I think. First and foremost, the creator profession has really destroyed what it means to actually have to earn an income, right? By that I mean this. Okay, so you have creators like people like Lai Wasabi, for example, who are meme creators, comedy content creators, right? Yeah. Because they've achieved some certain level of influence, let's call them influencers, right? Even though personally I do not see them as influencers, they are just popular faces. So this popular face gains popularity based off of his content that he's putting out there because people appreciate his content, and is approached by maybe brand A or brand B who wants to work with him, right, to reach a larger audience, right, based off of his own estimate for himself, his own aggrandized perspective of himself. He will put up a bill of, let's say, 5 million. Where he knows that the cost of shooting a video for him is not even up to 500,000, right?
Okay.
But he places the value on himself without any sort of regulation, without any sort of validation, right? And brands in their desperation, looking to reach larger audiences, will pay him that amount. And then he becomes entitled to it. Do you understand? And what that does is, for creators at the grassroots, like you, creators starting up, right? It poses a huge gap for you to fill, right? The brands start to expect you to be able to meet
up to that standard
of
before
audience,
they can consider you.
Exactly.
That's also true.
Exactly. Right. So you see a situation like that. You see situations like that every single time with all these influencers. But the funny part is the value that they give these brands is not commensurate.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've had to work with an influencer for a fintech brand I work with. I've had to work with an influencer, and to be honest, the content the influencer was generating wasn't even resonating with the kind of product that we have, and even the kind of audience we're looking to target with that influence. So it begs the question for me. That's me throwing my own shade back at you, content creator.
Oh yes.
That first off, you guys aggrandize your value, right? That's the first part, and then secondly, you have pretty much most of you have little or no value to present. What you present is just consumable content.
Excuse me. He said little or no value.
Hold up.
Have you taken a good look at us?
I don't mean you personally. I don't mean you personally, but I'm talking to the creator category, right? So on my own part as a 9-to-5er, right? And let's be honest, even to you, Mr. Investor, right? The platforms you use to invest, you mentioned something about Forex. There are platforms that actually power that. Who do you think powers it? Who do you think drives this platform? Who builds this platform? Who sustains this platform? Who keeps them running? It's 9-to-5ers like us, right? And we do it with the intention to add value. See, the truth is, most 9-to-5ers, in as much as, yes, money is a factor, right? But there is also value. The 9-to-5 system is a value-driven system. I bring value, I get paid for my value.
Sorry. So are you saying that
I do not estimate my value.
Okay.
Yes.
But so wait, are you saying that 9-to-5ers, I hope all of you are listening, 9-to-5ers that are, let's say, doing jobs of 25K, 50K every month, they should continue working there for 10 years so that they can get to your stage? Because it's the truth. So, my first job was 25K salary, yes. And I'm going to work Monday to Friday. In fact, even the boss will say, you should be coming on Saturday too. And I'll be like, for how much? So eventually it gets tiring. I'm defending my own creator side though, because some people have job hunted. I know that yes, there's this thing people see creators as, like, this bad perspective that they also see some actresses, so they also see creators like jobless, they don't have ideas, they're not spontaneous when it comes to their thinking. And then I think that's another thing about certain brands. If you're looking for an influencer or creator, you're not looking for the person based on they smell good, they look good on camera. No, you're looking for what they have upstairs. So if that person is into something that you're into, that's why it's better to always go for the smaller micro influencers and creators, because at least you're sure that their niche is something that you're into. They can attend to your audience if they're asking questions, and then they're giving value in return, because it's still work. They're still going to train people and do other things like that. But to spend my hours, my days and my nights, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, going to the office to go and say yes ma, yes sir. You now meet one HR, they tell you the clothes you wore today is short or is too open at the back. Hello, excuse me, please.
There's something called decorum, really, right? We see a lack of that decency and decorum, right, within the creator space. I don't mean to throw shades,
yes,
but we have a creator category that serves a particular audience that does not respect or fall into decorum, right? And those are the loudest of the creators. So forgive us for labeling creators in that.
Well, it's bad thing that used to trend, as people always say. If you want to trend, do bad thing. You will trend.
I feel like
one thing I want to say is
there's
a freedom that comes with being a creator and an investor that 9-to-5 doesn't have.
Yes.
And in the current world system,
you think?
in the current world system, it's easier for creators or investors to, in their free time, to actually envision whatever it is they want to do, whether it's on the bad side or the good side. And then using whatever they want to do, they propagate it. And then they grow in that manner rather. But as a 9 to 5er, no offense.
Big offense. Give it to him.
Yeah, why do they always
Give
say
it
no
to
offense
him.
before they're about to offend?
No offense. The growth time frame for 9 to 5 is a bit too long.
Okay, so I'm going to counter that, right?
Yeah.
While
Okay.
the growth trajectory for a 9 to 5er may be invariably longer
Yes.
than for a content creator and an investor, right? I would argue that that is relative, right?
Okay.
I've seen people who have had a 5-year career or even a 2-year career that they clocked to the peak. So say, for example, someone like one of the world's richest, Mark Zuckerberg, right, who founded Facebook and the whole meta architecture,
Yes.
right? He built a company. He employed people. He is or was a 9 to 5er, right, within the ranks of his business. He started out as a CEO from day one
Yes.
in that 9 to 5 space. Do you understand? There are people like that who break the system. It's not
Okay.
unheard of.
Yes.
Secondly, you say I see you emphasizing a lot on freedom, right? But are you very aware that too much of freedom is actually nonsensical? And I say
Hey,
that
God.
because
We have collected today.
I say that
Nice
because too much of freedom lacks accountability.
That there's
And
that part.
And that's one thing, that having too much free time or being free to make any decision you want to make, right, without thinking of the consequences, right, without thinking or holding yourself, having any system in place to hold you accountable, could lead you to making huge mistakes that you wouldn't have made if you had a structured system to keep you accountable. Say, for example, okay, so the number one investor issue that I have, right, is scams.
Yes.
There are 1,000,000,001 of them. The biggest or the most popular one in Nigeria happened to be MMM. That was a so-called investment scheme, right? A lot of people poured their money in. I mean, I didn't, right? Because I'm a salary earner, because I project my expenses and whatnot before my salary comes in. I did not have the space to carry a good chunk of my hard-earned cash to put in a system that is unvalidated, unsubstantiated, and unverified.
Well,
and a lot
people
of
like
people,
free money.
a lot of people
like free money.
A lot of people like creators and investors alike lost their hard-earned money.
Because we'll make back the money.
I know people that even committed suicide, right? Because of the volumes of money they lost.
Okay.
But as a 9 to 5er, I can always choose where I want to work. I'm not subject to working for somebody or working in a place for the rest of my life. If Mr. A is not giving me a good value, right? A good value return for the value I'm prepared to offer, I'll look for Mr. B or Mr. C or Mr. D. There are always options, right?
Okay.
But it's not easy to find job in Nigeria.
And mind you, this was a perk I forgot to mention, right? The 9 to 5, the most rewarding aspect of the 9 to 5, right? That you said it takes time to have that growth. The growth in the 9 to 5 may be long, but it is sustained over your lifetime. Because from a 9 to 5, you can have things like your pension, you can get life insurance, yes. And these are things that cover you well into your retirement and even up to your death. And there are things that you can actually plan, around with.
Okay.
Exactly.
I understand. But you see, this is where this problem comes to be. And it's the essential problem between Gen Zs and millennials with bloomers.
Oh, so we have now entered Gen Z.
No,
versus
we do
millennials versus
have to enter
bloomers.
that.
We're coming to another topic
Okay.
to face Gen Z and
No.
millennials. We're
Yeah,
coming.
that's a different topic,
Another
but-
topic.
It comes with the mentality. The older generation comes with this mindset of 9 to 5 is actually beneficial. It's the system that has worked for them for ages. You go to your office, you come back in the evening, over an extended period of time, 30 to 40 years, then you retire, you collect your pension, you're living on how much? 30K a month. Sorry, okay, let me even be
Depends on
considerate.
Without
Depends on your level.
investment
Depends on your
somewhere.
level.
Yeah, collecting
Someone at the
100K.
executive level would not be collecting a 100K
Okay.
pension.
Sorry.
Come on.
100k
There are
pension.
people. There are people whose pensions are well enough to buy them mansions. There are people whose pensions are well enough to even build them estates.
Okay.
Okay.
But
That's
that is
the
a
first.
minority, not the
Exactly.
majority.
Like 10% out of
Exactly.
100%.
But I'm so
It's the
sorry.
same way
wait.
we say the 10% or the upper 1% of society. There's always going to be the hierarchy.
Yes, there's also going to be that class.
Yes, and but for you to get into or break into a space that has greater perks, right? You have to
Okay.
be ready to put in the
But
work.
Mr. 9 to 5,
Yes,
you
Mr.
do.
Investor.
you do agree that the earning power of the younger generation in this time, with the earning power of investors and creators, is actually currently more substantial than 9 to 5ers.
Exactly.
So-
I can't see how somebody will spend their
here's
time
what-
and energy.
You
like,
say earning power. I hear you on earning power,
Okay.
right? But I counter you on that with the value of said funds, of said earnings. Value
Elaborate.
of said earnings. So for an investor or a creator who has earned maybe 5 million at once.
per brand anything.
Hold on.
Let him land.
5 million for maybe one investment where he made 500k and one video where she shot
I got views.
that got views and she earns 5 million, right? The value you're going to attach to that 5 million will reflect in the way you actually use that 5 million.
Yeah, that comes. That
You're
part
going
comes.
to probably and most likely spend it on shoes and bags, and within a week, the money is gone and done, right? Mr. Investor, you probably would think of, okay, maybe you have another 5 million lying somewhere and you may just think of buying a car, But for me, a 9 to 5er who knows that the 5 million will probably be like a 5-month salary or 6-month salary, right? I'm going to be smarter about how I plan to use that money. And in fact, the value of that money would take longer for me because, like I said, it's going to be like a 5-month or 6 months before I earn that kind of volume of money,
Okay.
right? So I would plan ahead. I won't easily jump into spending so much. And then the same things that you want to acquire or you end up acquiring outrightly, I would still get to acquire it. But yes, I may have to pay for it over a longer period. But then the value I would have for that thing or the value I attach to that thing would be way deeper than the value you would attach to it. Because
Okay.
for you, it's just 5 million. For me, it is
A
5
lot of
million.
money. Okay, so see this particular topic here. It can never, in fact, oh boy, it's plenty. It cannot be
I have
exhausted.
something for 9 to 5.
But let's just, because of the time, we're going to just talk about more interesting things that people want to hear. So let's come down to the main important thing. Now, how much does our individual professions pay? Let me start from you, Mr. Investor, because we have not really looked at your
I
site.
I think we need to be very specific in this your question.
Very, like, how much?
you let's just go. Let's not go.
How much
You have earned in this year from your
This year,
Yes.
from your
as an investor.
as an investor. How much have you earned in this
Okay,
year?
at this point, I can't full tally into it because assets are involved.
Yeah.
But
Just give an estimate or
Like
give
the
a
ones,
range.
the ones you're seeing that
Or give a
you've
range.
touched, not the ones
Liquid
that are still
cash.
somewhere.
Yes, cash that you can
Liquid
say
cash.
has hit your hand. It's not the one that is
No.
audio money.
no, not audio money. I'm talking about liquid cash. That's
Yes.
not assets involved.
Yeah.
Liquid cash. At least we'll be counting in the likes of. Well, live on TV. We don't need to.
You
call
go talk
these
am.
numbers.
See, that's the
You go
problem
talk
with
am.
We need to call
investors.
these numbers.
You go talk am.
We don't need to call these numbers.
You go
But let's
talk
just
am.
put at least
Give a range.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of
Alpha,
thousands
you
of
get
dollars.
girlfriend, you get wife. Are they
Baby, you know I'm always
interested?
here for you now. But
Where
anyway,
I be? Where am I?
That is, and that's just basis of crypto and forex and minusing my assets and the returns on my assets. So that's just basics on trades. You understand? 9 to 5. Please.
How much
have
do you
earned this
make
year?
at the end of the year?
So I'd like to point out again that the 9 to 5, right, is not limited to salary earnings,
Okay.
right? Because in the 9 to 5 space, we have freelance, we have collaborations, we have projects, right?
Yes.
So adding all those multiple streams of income, I would estimate that just a range, right? I'm not going to drag with you on the tens of thousands of dollars. Again, like I said, it's not the volume of the earning, it's the value of the earning for me. So I would estimate that, yes, I would say I've clocked almost 8,000.
$8,000. Coming from me, that is a creator, I'm going to say this with my full chest. YouTube alone, I'm a small creator on YouTube, so you're not going to search my name and find something else. But, I'm not making money from the views, but from the brand paid promotion, people pay me to promote their whatever, products and services. I make at least per year, I make more than $5,000 from that. And then let's now talk about like TikTok and other platforms. I make a minimum of $1,000 monthly. So tell me, I took my time, I wrote the script, I shot video, I did the video. Come on, I must be paid like the big girl that I am. So please, who's your zaddy? My zaddy is always going to be from the creator aspect, not shading that 9 to 5 wouldn't work or investment wouldn't work. I mean, I can still put some money in some investment, but this time it's not going to be MMM.
I still
It's not going to be
9
small.
to 5 is the most secure.
So I should do 9 to 5 for 5 years, 10 years,
You can
and I'm
plan
collecting
your whole
50,000
lifetime around
naira.
it.
But when will I grow?
One
When
thing-
will they even?
So
One
9 to
thing-
5 will always
okay.
remain my zaddy.
One thing I would love to add is the fact
Yeah.
that Robert Kiyosaki divided the investment or the financial lifespan of a person into 4 quadrants.
Okay.
9 to 5, you understand? That's the regular worker.
After school
Then
and
there is the
everything.
self-employed. That's from 9 to 5. That's actually the normal life cycle. From 9 to 5, you move to being a self-employed person. Even as a 9 to 5, you actually mentioned that yes, you do
Yeah, side gigs.
and other things. That's
You can
actually when you
eventually
move
own your own
to self-employed.
companies
The
and
second
businesses.
quadrant is business. That's where your self-employed skill sets, your
Advances.
agency and things, you now create it, you curate it to form an agency. And then as an agent, you now actually get to a bigger level, and then from there you move to an investor. So the end goal should actually be an investor. And then there are steps to take towards that. Whether you're a creator, whether you're a 9 to 5, there should be steps to take towards that.
The young girls should be an
Sure, don't go
investor.
and invest in
Anyway,
things like,
Sha,
Ponzi schemes
know
and
what
all.
you're doing when you're investing. But anyway, like I said, this topic is just going to be banter, like back to back. Well, I think irrespective of whatever professions that we're all doing, the most important thing is that we put our money to good use. By good use, I'm talking about tapping into the digital economy. The world is changing, the digital space is expanding, and like the 9 to 5, Mr. 9 to 5 mentioned, if you don't utilize the money that you make as an investor or a creator or a 9 to 5, you will just spend it on reckless things that don't make sense. So we're going to continue this particular topic, but on the aspect of putting your money to good use in different kinds of investment in our next episode. So stay tuned. See you next time, everyone. Until then, stay buzzed. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very
once
much for
again for
joining us.
having me.
Thank you very much.